and then a north-south split into the weekend. High pressure keeping it dry in the south. This evening turning quite chilly, some frost out there, but overnight we see cloud and rain moving in from the Atlantic. This slowly pushing its way southeastward, so temperatures rising as the night goes on, taking us into Thursday morning. Most places frost-free, generally between 2 and 8 Celsius. But it does mean a cloudy, damp start for many, particularly across England and Wales, where we do have outbreaks of rain slowly pushing southeastwards. Brighter Northern Ireland and Scotland with blustery showers in the far north. And then through the day, the cloud and the rain slowly pushes southeastwards, becoming confined to the far southeast for the afternoon. Most places becoming dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells. Still some blustery showers across Scotland. Temperatures near average for the time of year, 7 to 11 Celsius, maybe just slightly above for some western parts. On Friday itself, some mist and fog and frost to start the morning, and then plenty of dry weather across England and Wales. Variable amounts of cloud. Cloudy skies, though, for Northern Ireland, Scotland. The risk of some rain as we move through the day here, and a mild day for everyone. Into the weekend, it generally stays quite cloudy, and temperatures remain above average for the time of year. See you soon.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show.
Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else.
We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride.
Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse.
It's news, but it's this close to entertainment.
Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. and this is Patrick Christys Tonight. Well, Nigel Farage back at the office. Rishi Sunak's worst nightmare has come back from the jungle. Sunak is polling at -49. Would you vote for Nigel to be PM? But our politicians, well, they really are a bad joke, aren't they?
Mr. Speaker, Christmas is a time of peace on earth and goodwill to all. Has anyone told the Tory party?
I'm asking how much worse could it get under a Labour government? Last night, Don Mark Francois Leone, the leader of the right-wing Five Families, let the country down over Rwanda. So Tory MP Sir John Hayes will front up on how that shambles was allowed to happen. He will join me live, don't miss that. Plus, Harry and Meghan are officially announced as the biggest losers in Hollywood. Gary Lineker might actually be in trouble with the BBC for once. And you'll never guess what happens next in this shocking clip. There we go. Yes, you're going to have to tune in to find out. Find out shortly. And tonight I'm joined by Christine Hamilton, Adam Brooks and Matthew Larzer. Top team tonight. This is Patrick Christys Tonight, and it's all action. Loads to get through. Email me right now, gbviews@gbnews.com. Would you vote for Nigel? I'll see you after the headlines.
Patrick, thank you, and good evening to you. Well, police are still searching for a missing mother of three. They say they're in contact as well with detectives who worked on the Nicola Bully case to learn lessons from their investigation. Well, CCTV footage has been released showing the 55-year-old who's missing. She's called Gaynor Lord. She's seen here, if you're watching on television, leaving work on Friday afternoon. She was last seen while walking through Norwich city centre, and her coat has been discovered in the nearby River Wensum in Norfolk. That's prompted a huge search by police, fire crews and the Coast Guard. Police are saying she may have entered the water. Underwater teams are searching there today.
We are continuing the work that we have been doing since Friday night here at Wensum Park, conducting searches both on land and in the water. Today we've been joined by a specialist dive team who are in the water now, and they're supporting the search in terms of getting into those deeper parts of the River Wensum, which then obviously supports all of the search work that we've already done here at the river.
Politics now, and ribbing the Tories over infighting was the main focus of today's Christmas-themed Prime Minister's Question Time, the final session of the year. 38 rebel Conservative MPs chose to abstain, not vote against the safety of Rwanda bill last night, so it passed with a majority of 44. But the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, took aim at the government, accusing them of being in meltdown. Rishi Sunak immediately hit back, saying numbers on migration and the economy speak for themselves.
Votes down by a third, and crucially, as we heard from Honourable Friend, tax cuts coming to help working families in the new year.
Mr. Speaker, he can spin it all he likes, but the whole country can see that yet again the Tory party is in meltdown and everyone else is paying the price. Now, he's kicked the can down the road, but in the last week his MPs have said of him he's not capable enough, he's inexperienced, he's arrogant, a really bad politician.
Sir Keir Starmer. Well, Northern Ireland's main political parties from Stormont and the government failed to conclude their discussions as planned tonight. That means crunch talks on power sharing and funding will now be extended into next week. It comes after Rishi Sunak told the Commons that he stands ready to legislate to keep Northern Ireland in the UK's internal market, but only if devolved government is restored. The Stormont administration effectively collapsed in February of last year after the DUP left in protest over post-Brexit trading agreements. Their leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, has insisted there is more work to be done before his party's prepared to return to power sharing. Now, as you've been hearing, the TV presenter Gary Lineker may have breached the BBC's social media guidelines in recent posts about politicians. The government's candidate for BBC chairman says Gary Lineker's criticism of the Defence Secretary Grant Shapps appears to be in breach of the corporation's guidelines. The TV presenter was among a group of celebrities who signed a letter calling for the government to scrap its Rwanda scheme. Well, speaking to MPs at a pre-appointment hearing, Samir Shah said he didn't think it had been very helpful for Lineker to comment. On TV, online, DAB+ radio and the TuneIn app. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Roll up, another day at the circus. It started well for Rishi Sunak, fresh from seeing off the Rwanda bill renegades by abstaining from the vote. Mark Don Francois Leone, the boss of the five families, showed his hand. They are rebels without a cause. But then this morning, Sunak was brought back down to earth. A new YouGov poll released earlier on has the Prime Minister at his lowest popularity rating ever, finding himself at a lowly minus 49%. That is less popular than Novichok at a children's birthday party. A whopping 70% say they have an unfavourable opinion of him. And if that wasn't bad enough, Sunak's worst nightmare has come rolling back into town. Nigel Farage. And it turns out that the Tories love him. The public have got jungle fever. Nigel has net approval ratings of plus 18 among Conservative 2019 voters. Sunak is down at minus 3. Minus 3. Essentially, more people would rather pass a kidney stone than have him as their leader. So, is it any surprise that at PMQs earlier, he lost his rag a little bit with Keir Starmer across the dispatch box?
11-year-old Liam Walker, homeless this Christmas. He wrote a letter to Santa saying, "Please, can I have a forever home? I don't want any new toys. I just want all my old toys out of storage. I just want us to be happy again."
Mr. Speaker, if he really cared about building homes... No. If he really cared about building homes, when there was an opportunity in this House, Mr. Speaker, in this House, to back our plans to reform defective EU laws, to unlock 100,000 new homes, Mr. Speaker, what did he do? What did he do? He went in front of the cameras and said one thing and came in here and blocked it. Typical shameless opportunism.
I actually think it's quite nice to see him a bit pumped up, to be honest with you, and I don't really like questions like that from Keir Starmer, but Rishi's right about one thing there. Starmer is a shameless opportunist. This Thatcher-loving Labour leader is strolling into Downing Street without a single political principle, nor a decent gag.
Mr. Speaker, Christmas is a time of peace on earth and goodwill to all. Has anyone told the Tory party?
Grief. Because here is actually what we know about Labour and Starmer. He has no plan of his own, as far as I can tell, to stop the boats, apart from taking an added 100,000 migrants or so from his mates at the EU. He's hamstrung by the unions and at odds with his Palestine-supporting MPs. 10 of Starmer's front bench walked away over the issue. That is not a party ready for government. Plus, everything that Labour does have control of seems to go belly up. Nottingham City Council, bankrupt. Birmingham City Council, bankrupt. And what a legacy Mark Drakeford is leaving behind after he announced his resignation as Wales First Minister today. A health service in tatters, NHS waiting times at a record high and a draconian anti-motorist 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. His crowning glory was getting turfed out of a mosque alongside Keir Starmer. The only thing that kept Sunak in office last night was the threat of his MPs voting against him, because then they would have voted for a Labour government. So tonight, I am asking, and I think this is relevant given what we saw last night with that farce with the Rwanda bill, how much worse do you think a Labour government would be? GBviews at gbnews.com. Get those views rolling in now, as well as whether or not you would vote for Nigel to be PM. The inbox has lit up in front of me. I'll go to that shortly. Hardly a surprise there. But let's get the thoughts of my panel. I've got author and broadcaster Christine Hamilton. I've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larser. Christine, would things actually be worse under Labour?
Could they be any worse?
This is what I'm asking you.
No, they couldn't. I don't think they could. I don't think there'll be a massive amount of difference, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the Tories have spent 13 years pretending to be Tories. They can't now, in 12 months' time, suddenly turn that around. It's too late. They're going to be handing Labour a massive debt, massive economic difficulties, huge problems.
Be interesting to see what Labour will know what it feels like.
Well, very, very unlike what the Tories handed to Labour in 1997, when they'd had Ken Clarke as Chancellor, we'd come out of the exchange rate mechanism, he'd got, or failed to join, he'd got everything in order, handed them a massive golden economic legacy. It isn't going to be like that this time. They're going to find themselves very, very constrained. And the Tories are so woke, we might as well have a Labour government. We really might. So I don't think it will be any worse. Matthew, I'm sure, will tell us exactly what the Labour government are going to do to make things better.
Well, it'd be nice, actually. We'll get to Matthew.
We'll get to
I've got the plan with me.
You've got the plan, have you?
I mean,
good stuff.
The Tories have
I give him it.
Yeah, you gave it. No, go on, right, Adam. Do you think it could be worse under Labour or not?
It's going to be horrific, and I think the Tories have failed over the last 13 years. Too many promises broken. We've got Rishi Sunak that has either U-turned or just gone back on anything that he said, from the leadership race to the policies in the last few months. He's probably the weakest Prime Minister that we've had in decades. But we're going to have a Prime Minister in Keir Starmer, and that is very likely, that wouldn't say what a woman is. So he's got no backbone. He just doesn't want to offend anyone. He kneeled for BLM. You know, the woke issues are going to go out of control. The party is funded by the Marxist unions. So God knows what's going to happen with all the pay and that NHS. That's going to be bust in 5 years. It will improve, but it'll be bust in 5 years. I am dreading a Labour government.
Bust already.
Look, things can get worse. You know, it is bad, this country, but they're going to get a lot worse under Labour.
Matthew's got his big plan.
That I gave him.
First of all, let's. I think we're all agreed that this government's a complete disaster. That yesterday was a shambles, and that we need a general election now to put the government out of misery, but more importantly, to give the country the fresh start it needs. And I completely disagree with the premise, Patrick, because it's not going to be a lot worse. It's going to be a lot better because we're going to have a leadership that believes that the best days of this country are ahead of us, not behind us.
But it's this kind of random belief that people who believed in Brexit were denigrated for, wasn't it? What are you believing in? Oh, it's belief, is it? Belief doesn't do anything.
Absolutely, which is why Labour's got a clear set of policy commitments across the issues. Adam very kindly helped me keep up to date with the latest plan on migration. But, you know...
Which is what?
The latest plan on migration is, above all else, to smash the gangs, which the Tories have failed to do. They've taken their eye off the ball. They've spent all the time looking at Rwanda, which, let's remind ourselves, we've sent more Home Secretaries, we've sent zero asylum seekers to Rwanda, and what we actually need to do is smash the gangs, use the terror legislation against the gang holders, have proper police cooperation, etc. But at home, what we saw today is there's Sunak boasting about the economy at PMQs. He obviously hasn't read his newspaper this morning to see what last month we dipped as a country. Our economic growth is negative. We need a fresh start.
Matthew, would Labour deport illegal immigrants, yes or no?
Of course, yes. If people are turned down in the system, if people have turned down in the system, of course they would go.
To start deporting illegal immigrants,
Adam, Labour,
never in a million years.
Left-wing governments across Europe do it. My friends in Denmark, in the Labour government, in the Social Democratic government, do it.
In Denmark, they at one point, wanted to fund a ferry that would take migrants to an island off Denmark and then leave them there and then outprice the migrants from being able to get the ferry back. So if we're fishing in that pond, then that's...
No, what I'm saying is there is no correlation between people on the left being weak on migration. And indeed, if there was an offshore processing centre that worked, we would be in favour of it.
Just politely, I will go to polite. There is no correlation between people on the left and being weak on migration. Can I just point you towards the European Union's open border scheme? And what Angela Merkel did to Germany when it came to the old Syrian...
She was a Conservative.
Oh, great. All right, OK.
Well, what I want is, what is Labour going to do? Never mind illegal migration, which is actually... It's appalling, and nobody wants to see these boats, and Rishi was an idiot to say he would stop the boats.
Absolutely.
He can't stop the boats because he hasn't got the backbone to stop.
He's not going to turn them round.
He's not. That's what you should do. He should turn them round. They should be shepherded a little bit further down the beach, put into a big passenger ferry and sent off back to France with enough fuel to get there and not enough to get back. But what is Labour going to do about legal migration? What is they going to do about all these students who come in on these student visas? They can bring all their...
which the Tories have...
I know,
absolutely, Christine, we agree.
But are you going to stop that?
Well, the first thing that we're going to do is make sure that there's no undercutting. Rishi Sunak himself has spent the reason we're at 700,000 is because last year Rishi Sunak wrote a little list. It wasn't a little list, it was a very long list, including things like graphic designers, shortage occupations. We called for it to go. At least the Tories did it last week, too late. But yes, we've got to clamp down on these dodgy routes.
All right, OK, so, look, Adam, obviously, you are firm... So, Christine, you're firmly of the view that actually things could probably not get that much worse and you could fit a Rizzler paper between
well,
two parts.
hang on a minute. Before anybody interprets that as thinking that I want a Labour government, of course I don't, because they stand for everything. They're socialists, they don't believe, you know, etc., etc.
I don't think anyone for a single second who's ever met you, Christine, would believe that you were banging favour of the Labour
Comrade
government.
Christine.
Yeah, you firmly are of the view that despite how it may seem right now, it would and could get worse under Labour government.
I won't be voting for the Tories. I certainly won't vote for Labour. But I believe after 5 years of the next Labour government, which it's going to be a Labour government, this country will be completely unrecognisable in all aspects of life. I think it is going to collapse.
You think they'd go after the social issue? Because if they haven't got money to spend, they might have to go after the social
I think it's going to go further left
We'll
of
get
Starmer in the next 5 years.
So much weight.
Absolutely. What you see is what you'll get. You'll get a Keir Starmer-led government. Keir's been very clear that all the people being selected to be Labour candidates and thus Labour MPs, if people vote for them, are all in Starmer's image.
The unions will get
the
their
biggest
way.
donors to the Labour Party isn't the union, it's the guy who started Autoglass.
What's he going to do about protecting women, protecting British culture, protecting the British way of life?
I wonder whether...
For example, not having gender self-recognition, which the SNP tried to do in Scotland.
Let's also remember, viewers need to remember that Keir Starmer, our next Prime Minister, wanted a second referendum on Brexit. He basically did not believe in democracy until
we
he
effectively
gets his
had one
own
in the
way.
2019 general election, and look how disappointed people are.
What happened in 2016 was the second referendum on the EU.
All right, lively start. You love to see it. Get your emails coming in, gbviews@gbnews.com. I'll go to them very shortly. Still to come, though, Harry and Meghan's Archwell Foundation hit by a whopping £8.7 million drop in donations, which I think is unbelievable considering the profile that they've got. But they have also been branded Hollywood's biggest losers, which I think is quite hard to do. We've also got Prince Harry nightclub revelations and a brand new clip of Kate Middleton's university antics in The Crown. Top author Angela Levin delivers the Royal Dispatch shortly. But up next, in the head-to-head, as Nigel Farage's popularity soars above Rishi Sunak amongst Tory voters, should the Tory right choose the GB News star as our next Prime Minister? Going head-to-head, we've got Edwina Currie locking horns with Belinda DeLucy on Nigel's future. That's next. Also, how would you, very lucky people, like to win 10 grand in cold, hard cash, brand new tech and some shopping vouchers? Well, you could be the winner of our very first Great British giveaway, easy for me to say. All the details now.
This week, we're launching the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to grab some amazing prizes and start your new year the right way. You could win an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Imagine having all of that extra cash in your bank account. We'll also bring you bang up to date with the very latest iPhone 15 Pro Max. And we'll give you £500 worth of shopping vouchers to spend in the store of your choice. For your chance to win the iPhone, the vouchers and £10,000 cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB01, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
Oh, the inbox is on fire. Trevor's been on. He's the only man capable of putting this country back on the road. He's talking about Nigel Farage. Well, up next, would you vote for Nigel Farage to be Prime Minister? That's coming your way in the head-to-head.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks. The admission's free.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Esteemed royal journalist Angela Levin is waiting in the wings, but first it's time for the head-to-head. Fresh from his triumphant run to the final of I'm a Celeb, GB News superstar Nigel Farage landed back in Blighty today and he was straight back in the office, just as a bombshell new poll revealed that the Brexit broker's popularity has soared to new heights. Nigel's approval rating with Tory voters has risen to a whopping +18, whilst Rishi Sunak's has plummeted to a dismal -3 after his Rwanda bill made it through the Commons last night. And after this message earlier today from a fired-up Farage, the Prime Minister might want to keep a look over his shoulder. Watch and listen.
Government's in desperate trouble, headed for catastrophic defeat. They've no idea what's coming down the track towards them. And, yeah, I think the last thing I heard before I went into the jungle was that Cameron was back. Well, if it's got that bad, they must be in real trouble. And I see that he's just about managed to squeak through a vote on Rwanda, but, I mean, it's going to make no difference at all. No, they're in dire, dire trouble.
Well, I see Nigel's got a suit on that's the same colour as my socks this evening, which are causing quite a lot of outrage in the inbox, gbviews@gbnews.com. But I am asking a proper question tonight. Should the Tory right unite behind Nigel Farage to save the party? Let me know your thoughts. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Tweet me @gbnews while you're there. Go and vote in our poll. The results coming your way shortly. But to debate this now, I'm joined by former Tory Minister Edwina Currie and former Brexit Party MEP Belinda Delucy. Ladies, thank you very much. I normally go ladies first, but I don't know who to choose now. Belinda, I'll go with you. Do you think that the Tory right should unite behind Nigel?
I think anyone with principles who commits to reducing immigration, controlling our borders, should get behind Nigel Farage. Otherwise, they're just lame ducks following a completely incompetent, international stage submissive group of One Nation Tories. And One Nation Tories almost destroyed the party back in 2019 under Theresa May. They have not read the room. They've got control back of the party, having ousted pretty much all the right wingers, and they're destined for defeat. You know, Nigel is a man with vision. He's a conviction politician, as rare as hen's teeth these days, Patrick. And when you're flying through a storm, which is what this country is doing at the moment, you need a maverick. You need a Maximus, not a technocratic Penfold. You know, we need to have a leader that actually puts the British people first, instead of this huge chunk of the Conservative Party that prioritises pleasing the international stage above British safety, national security, and the taxpayer. People are fed up with it. They don't feel safe with the Conservative Party, not selling the UK out at every opportunity to schmooze with their international buddies. Nigel Farage is utterly devoted to this country. He's a duty, service, disciplined man, and I think he inspires. Rishi inspires no one.
All right, Belinda's had a Weetabix. Gosh, Edwina, come back to that. Would you vote for Nigel?
I was just wondering if you were going to be able to let me get in a word in edgeways with all that tirade. And actually, that's the point, Patrick. It's very easy for people to make speeches. That's all that Nigel Farage is doing. Running the government, running the country is a great deal harder, and it requires some very difficult choices that nobody wants to make and everyone can object to and everyone can make a fuss about, but actually running the country is the hardest job of all. I don't think that we should be considering having Nigel as a senior Conservative, let's put it like that. Not least because in our system, in the general election that we're facing very, very shortly in the coming year, we have first past the post. Not like the system in which Belinda got elected to the European Parliament. First past the post means that you have to do more than appeal to your own activists. You have to appeal to the centre as well. You cannot win an election just by having Tory voters or people that say that they're Tory voters or might be Tory voters. You have to actually appeal to the centre, and you have to do rather better than the other side at appealing to the centre. Now, what that means is that Nigel Farage, you know, bless him, he's toxic to an awful lot of people. I thought he did very well in the jungle. Not surprisingly well. I thought he would do well. But for an awful lot of people, he's what will get them out on the doorsteps to fight against us. He is not good news, and I don't think he's going much further.
That's interesting. Belinda, go on.
Right, OK. The Conservative Party have proved to the voters not to trust them on illegal immigration, not to trust them on controlling our borders. They've literally proved it to us. So therefore, the idea that there's some sort of centrist group of people that are going to appeal to the majority, it is not centrist having open borders. It is not centrist having hyper mass immigration against the democratic will of the people. That is extremist. In fact, Nigel,
you don't have to argue that, Belinda. I totally
Nigel is actually very centrist.
Edwina, you know how this works over Zoom. All right, let Belinda finish. No, Edwina, right, let Belinda finish. We'll go back to you. All right.
I'm highly sceptical of that. But in any case, what we need to do, if we want to make sure, and I don't think you want a Labour government led by somebody whose last efforts were to try and get Jeremy Corbyn into office, if we want to make sure that we don't have a Labour government, then splitting the vote.
OK, but is that good enough? All right, OK, sorry. I'm gonna come in on this, because is that really good enough? All right, if you don't vote for the man you want, you might get someone who isn't Keir Starmer. Belinda, is that what the Tories have got left?
This is such a reflection on how weak the Tory party is that they keep going back to, yeah, but vote for us because the Labour Party is worse, and blame the Brexit Party, blame Reform UK for taking your votes. No, the Tory party is just not good enough. The country deserves better. It took the trust of the voters in 2019 and it squandered it. It never liked their new voters in 2019. They're completely beholden to the international stage above our interests. Nigel Farage, I met him when I was 19, Patrick. For many decades I've known him, and he inspired me to have the courage to be disliked by the BBC-approved liberal elite, which the Tory party kneeled down to. They've had their day. They completely squandered their majority. Why would you reward them with your
all right, Edwina, go on. All right, Edwina, go on. Have a good run at this.
Three of us who's actually in the north of England right now, in a red wall seat. I can tell you that that's a load of rubbish. We have to make sure, you're quite right, that the government is performing as well as possible and that those immigration numbers come down. But there are other things as well, like the economy, which actually seems to be turning around very well. And I'm very satisfied that we'll see more progress on that before the general election.
Edwina, how do you explain... Sorry, I just want to go back to Edwina. Edwina, how do you explain the polls? Because Rishi Sunak is absolutely plummeting, whereas Nigel Farage, this is amongst Conservative voters in 2019, so red wall seats, Nigel Farage is way more popular. He's plus 18 compared to Sunak's -3. So with respect, Edwina, how do you explain that?
Well, the plummeting has happened in the last couple of weeks, and I don't think the row over Rwanda has been any help, accompanied by some horrible figures on immigration, which we really should have been on top of a long time before. I agree with that. We have to do better. We can always do better, but you do an awful lot better in government, let me tell you, than in opposition.
OK, final word, Belinda. Look, really, I suppose, I mean, it's pretty obvious you would vote for Nigel, wouldn't you?
All the way, all the way. He's absolutely the man, the hero this country needs. And the Conservative Party have taken people's votes for granted for so many years, and they have laughed at the faces of their voters and completely betrayed them because they do not have the spine to stand up to international, terrible, harmful, outdated treaties. They've always prioritised them above the British people. Nigel would never do that. And Edwina, quickly, why, if the French can ignore Strasbourg rulings and deport terrorist sympathisers, do our government not do the same? Because they have no spine, no political will to ever put the British people first above international bad law.
All right, then, very final word, Edwina.
Goodness me, goodness me. You know, I think some of this difficulty with immigrants is actually playing against us in many parts of the country. And bear in mind that the majority of seats in the country are not in the red wall area. They're in the south of England. And there the feeling is not nearly as strong as I hear Belinda saying. I mean, I've served in Parliament and fought many elections in the UK Parliament. Belinda, I don't think, has ever been able to succeed in that. She was able to get into the European Parliament on a corrupt, internationally supported system called proportional representation. Doesn't work like this in the United Kingdom. You have to play by UK rules, and you're not going to make any progress while we have the system that we've got. What you're going to do is
Edwina, good luck.
Ladies, that's enough. 10. Thank you. OK. All right, well, it's called a head-to-head, and it was box office. Look, both of you, thank you very, very much. I'm very glad I'm not actually physically sat in the middle of you tonight. Thank you. Emails flooding in. Sorry, but why would Nigel want to commit political suicide joining the Tories? The 5 families should defect to reform, says Michelle. There we go. Look, who do you agree with? Would you vote for Nigel to be PM? John on Twitter says, yes, I would. Nigel is a man of the people and not a career politician like the rest of them. Rodri on Twitter says, Nigel is the only person with any values and the only person that will listen to the people. The country needs him. And then, ironically, Nigel on Twitter says, he's already stood for election several times and lost. Presumably this isn't from Nigel Farage's own account. What makes the Tories think he'll be successful now? He's only had a little bit of telly fame. It's not the same as winning an election. Well, look, your verdict is now in. 86% of you would vote for Nigel Farage to be Prime Minister. 14% of you would not. Coming up, he's the Tory right-winger whose Common Sense group was one of the so-called 5 families that tried sinking Rishi Sunak's Rwanda bill, all right? So after much fuss, what went wrong? I'm going to let you in on a little bit of context now, quickly. Sorry, producers, I will keep this quick. I woke up to a WhatsApp message this morning from a very prominent member of the Tory right, who was devastated at the fact that they had not actually voted against this bill. And they felt as though they'd let everyone down, and that now they've been outmanoeuvred by Rishi Sunak, and we as a nation will be stuck with whatever version of Rwanda Rishi Sunak puts forward. I think the country was let down massively yesterday by people who claimed to have serious principles. Well, Sir John Hayes MP is going to front up to this stuff, OK? It wasn't him who WhatsApped me, by the way. He joins me live and gives his insight into yesterday's Commons drama very, very shortly. But first, Harry and Meghan are mocked as Hollywood's biggest losers, as their Archwell Foundation is hit by a whopping £8.7 million drop in donations, and we've got an epic Prince Harry nightclub tale that you will not want to miss. Angela Levin joins me with the Royal Dispatch. That's next.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's
my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Tory right have a heck of a lot to answer for after yesterday's shenanigans over the Rwanda bill. Like I said, I woke up this morning first thing to a WhatsApp message from a completely distraught Tory MP who was saying to me they wish they'd stuck to their guns and not abstained. Well, you did, and now we're stuck with what we've got. So Sir John Hayes, to his credit, is going to come on and explain yesterday's botched rebellion to me shortly. At least I hope he can, because I think we do deserve answers. But time now for our Royal Dispatch with top author Angela Levin. And who would have thought stabbing everyone in the back would lose friends and influence? Well, damning new figures from Harry and Meghan's Archwell charity show the organisation suffered a whopping £8.7 million plunge in donations in the past year, leaving them with a £537,000 loss. Donations fell to just £1.6 million from only 2 individuals over that period. Now, it follows a turbulent year for the Sussexes, who dropped Harry's vitriolic memoir Spare and had their lucrative Spotify podcast deal axed after being slammed as grifters. There was a word before that, but we can't possibly read it out. Meanwhile, today, Harry and Meghan have been sensationally labelled Hollywood's biggest losers by an industry bible following their whiny Netflix documentary. So, Angela Levin, are they now a spent force?
Oh, I think they are, actually. They got it all wrong. They had so much opportunity. They had so many options that they could have done, and they hadn't, because I think Meghan feels that she knows better than anyone in any area how it should be done, and Harry just goes along and follows her. The main aim is to crush the royal family, and certainly King Charles, because she didn't get what she wanted. She felt that she should be listened to first because she was someone who was self-made, whereas Princess Catherine wasn't, and she just got very annoyed with it being old and the demands. But, you know, you can only take a little bit of that. You can have a little wine and then you move on. But, you know, this wine has gone on and on and on, and it's gone very sour. And people now think, you know, for goodness sake, you're in a big house, you've got everything you wanted, and now you're still moaning.
I don't think... I mean, fair enough, by the way. You know, I don't really think Meghan and Harry would care too much about what I have to say, despite the fact that I did end up in their Netflix documentary. I don't like to go on about it twice, and it twice. But they probably do care about what the Hollywood Bible says.
Yes.
Right? And that has named them as the biggest losers.
Yes.
And that must cut a bit.
Of course it will. Meghan will be absolutely furious, but it won't be her fault. Neither of them want to admit that it's their fault. It will be someone else's fault. And I think it will be very hard for them to hang on. And in a place like America, once they go off you, once you lose capturing them, you've had it, really. It'll be very, very hard, unless they can get something really big, something imaginary, you know, really sort of something that everybody would really want to see in a surprise.
But they could. I mean, they could. Like, just do some genuine... The thing is, though, just do some genuine good, right? That's what I mean. Like, you know, back a winner in that regard. I mean, it is possible. I think one of the issues is that, for a lot of people, their route back to redemption is like a sob story, right? So they've kind of told their sob story, and that's maybe led to where they are. But we're going to move on now, Angela, because TV presenter Paddy McGuinness reckons that Prince Harry ripped a poster of his grandmother, the Queen, from the wall of an underground London club so that she couldn't watch his debauched party. Listen to this.
I just get a tap on the shoulder, and it's Prince Harry. I turn around and just for a sec, because I'd had a few, and I'm like, it's your man. And he just went, I want to go to Fernando's. Like that. There were all sorts going on. He was ripping my T-shirt off and snogging, like kissing me, and rips photo at Queen off wall. He said, I can't have her watching me do this. I was like...
Amazing.
Sounds like a good night, that.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, you know that he still feels that his mother is looking down on him, that Diana is looking down on him, and that she is guiding him what to do, and that she's watching him very, very carefully. He does feel that. And the only reason he could do that was he feels the same for the Queen, his grandmother, that she is looking down and she would be shocked by what he was doing. But so he didn't want to see her. In other words, he felt that he was behaving very badly. But it's very childlike, isn't it? You know, I don't want my mummy, I don't want my granny to know what I'm doing. I must hide it. Bizarre.
We liked him more, though, didn't we, when he was behaving a bit like that, or is that wrong of me?
No, he was very popular. He was the most popular royal of all time because they liked him because he was naughty and wild, and he was fun, and now he's just miserable. He was very funny. I mean, I spent, 15 months with him, and he was a great sense of humour. But now all that's gone, and he's just arguing and
full of energy, wasn't he? Full of energy. And finally, Angela, as well, Netflix has released a new trailer for The Crown that features Kate Middleton's infamous university catwalk appearance that saw her strut her stuff in a see-through dress. So this is the original real-life picture. Good grief. Good grief. This is the original real-life picture of the now Princess of Wales on the occasion in 2002 that she is said to have first caught the eye of Prince William. Well, and everybody else, I imagine. And this is the Crown's dramatic reenactment. What do you make of that?
Well, it's very sexy, isn't it? And she does walk
I couldn't possibly
with a great vigour and come on, anybody who wants me, you know, sort of look. And
was that the moment, do you think, was that the moment that she... I don't want to say snared William, because that sounds like bad for Kate, doesn't it? But did she, you know?
No, but she looked very attractive and he was obviously taken with her. But I don't think it was just that, because before that they'd had rooms just very close to each other.
Right.
And they'd had very long conversations and they'd walk round the gardens. So they could actually get on as in chatting and all that sort of
so
thing.
it was... So
this is
had nothing to do with it, Angela. Absolutely,
this is the cherry on the top.
Oh, absolutely, you know, absolutely nothing to do with the see-through dress, nothing like that. Angela, look, thank you very, very much. The wonderful Angela Levitt. Now, an Archwell spokesperson has said it is not unusual for high-profile foundations to receive an influx of funding in the first year. It is fiscally responsible not to continue raising large sums of money with millions still in reserve. So that is that, as they say. Coming up, I'm not holding back in my 10 p.m. monologue as I make the damning case for us to follow the lead of Australia and physically turn back the boats to stop the Channel crisis. Enough is enough, I will explain shortly, but first, leader of the Tory Common Sense Group, Sir John Hayes, will join me to hopefully explain what the hell happened with the so-called Rwanda rebellion that ended up falling flat on its face. Don't go away.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, the right-wing rebellion that threatened to sink Rishi Sunak's Rwanda bill yesterday ultimately fell flat as a pancake, didn't it? The so-called 5 families of the right-wing Tories made a big fuss about the controversial legislation designed to stop the small boats. but they all eventually abstained from the crucial Commons vote, which the government won then by a majority of 44. Leader of one of those families, Sir John Hayes, is about to join me live from Westminster, but, remarkably isn't here yet, apparently. So it'd be nice if somebody did turn up and front up to this omni-shambles that happened. So hopefully Sir John does manage to do that very, very shortly, because I think the public do deserve answers. I certainly want answers, especially in light of the fact that I received a WhatsApp message first thing this morning from a member of the Tory right telling me that they felt sick to their stomach and they think they'd done the wrong thing and that Sunak isn't going to actually cave into any of their amendments now and we're going to end up with a wishy-washy Rwanda bill. And actually, they should have stuck to their guns and they completely bottled it. So it would be nice if somebody joined us at some point to actually talk to us about that. But first, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Author and broadcaster Christine Hamilton, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Larzer. Look, Christine, I mean, they bottled it, didn't they?
Absolutely. They put the thought of power, or the power that they've currently got, before their principles. I mean, it's utterly extraordinary. They've been bought off with thoughts of maybe getting a knighthood, maybe going to the House of Lords. That'll be what will be happening in the next few weeks. They'll be saying, oh, come on, support the government, and then you'll be Sir whatever when we lose the election. It's extraordinary. I mean, the one thing that has been the Tory party's strength throughout the centuries has been unity. And this has all gone by the board, and the person I blame for that, not that I care terribly, is David Cameron, because when he was Prime Minister, he, instead of allowing constituencies to choose their own, so if they wanted to choose a candidate who they wanted, a good, tough, right-wing candidate, they weren't allowed to. They had somebody from central office parachuted in. And this is why you've now got the Tory party in massive disarray with the One Nation, etc., etc.
If they were going to abstain, why didn't they say so from the start? That's because something changed, isn't it? Something changed.
I've been told from a very good source in the Conservative Party that for weeks Rishi Sunak has been threatening them with an early election. So they are putting a few quid and a few months in their seats in front of their morals and their principles at the end of the day. Now, you know, it's very easy to say from the outside, but I would want to go out as a hero or someone that, you know, is respected for sticking up for what they believe in. And this hype that was brought up about Rwanda and we're not for it, why didn't they vote against it? It's embarrassing.
And I think, you know,
I've had enough of the Tories from that side to that side. They're done.
All right, OK. Matthew, very quickly, I can see Sir John Hayes on the screen.
Excellent. Well, look, I mean...
going to come on the telly.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll ask him why, you know, about the ridiculous scenes yesterday where they, you know, marched everybody to the top of the hill and then right back down again. It was an absolute shambles, and who's in charge?
I'm just going to cut you off because I do want at least a couple of minutes with Sir John, if that's all right. Sir John Hayes, MP, leader of the Common Sense Group, which also includes members such as Lee Anderson, Brendan Clark-Smith, Jonathan Gullis. Thank you very much for joining me, Sir John. Did you bottle it yesterday?
A pleasure, a great pleasure. Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Did you bottle it yesterday?
I didn't catch what you said. Absolutely not. No, I tell you, let me explain exactly what happened. So we chose not to support the bill. On a second reading of a bill, you vote for its principle. We've now put the ball back into the government's court and said, you've got to do better. This bill's got to be stronger. We've got to stop the boats. We've got to send the planes to Rwanda. That's the message we sent. And that was the right message to send. There's no way we can support this bill in its current form.
Why did I wake up to a WhatsApp message from someone in your group this morning saying that you got it catastrophically wrong and that Rishi doesn't have to listen to you now because he's got a majority of 44 and actually you should have stuck to your guns?
Well, I don't know who sent you that message, but I can tell you that I've had a lot of people say to me, you did exactly the right thing, because had you voted against... OK, you were essentially signalling that the negotiations were over, discussion about improving the bill was done, and, by the way, you'd vote against the principle of the Rwanda policy. That's what second reading is. Second reading happens, you debate the principle, then you have the committee stage where you amend a bill, you try to improve it, and then you have the final stage, third reading, where you decide whether you're going to go ahead or not.
So what happened?
That's the process.
What changed, right? What changed? Because in the morning, I spoke to a couple of members of your kind of larger umbrella organisation, the Five Families, and the rebellion was on. I mean, were you bought off by a bacon sandwich early doors?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the truth is that the Prime Minister said at that early meeting he was prepared to see the bill tightened. And what that means is you can actually improve the bill, make it stronger, make it do its job.
He doesn't have
and on
to,
that basis,
John,
we're going to
does
go
it?
forward.
He doesn't have to now. He's got a majority
Well,
of
he does,
44.
doesn't he? Because, no. Look, the maths of it are this. 39 Conservatives abstained, about 32 of them are ours. In addition to that, many others said, well, vote for second reading on the understanding the bill then improves in committee and we'll think again at third reading. So what we essentially is we've given notice, haven't we? We've veiled our threat, but it's pretty thinly veiled because we know we've got the numbers to do it.
All right. I mean, a member of the umbrella organisation messaged me and says that in their experience, the rebels get weaker, not stronger, as the bill progresses. And Rishi Sunak and James Cleverly were off doing a victory lap this morning. I mean, that is the mood amongst your group, right?
Well, let me tell you about the politics of that. What you have to do in politics, and in life, by the way, is you must never do what your opponents want you to do. So those are people who want to soften this bill, those people who don't believe what we believe, they expected us to troop through and be portrayed as people who wanted to kill the Rwanda policy. They wanted us to be destructive. We've gone forward and said, no, we're constructive. We want to improve this. Now it's down to you. Do you want to improve it too? Exactly the right tactic. So you're right. If you want to be crass, you would have done the easy thing. If you want to be clever, you do the sensible thing. And that's exactly what we did.
Right. So what amendments do you need to see now in order to vote for this? Or shall I rephrase that? If it doesn't include specific things, which I'm hoping you're going to tell me it is now, you will vote against it. You'll give a promise to the nation right now. You will vote against this so that we're not stuck with a wishy-washy Rwanda bill that doesn't work, in your view, Sir John.
Well, let's think about what happens next. And what happens next is, and we again got an agreement on this yesterday, is the lawyers that have professed that this bill is not up to scratch. They've studied this, they've scrutinised it, and they've claimed that the bill won't do what it's intended to do. And I believe them, because that's what Robert Jenrick, the former immigration minister, said. That's what Sir Braverman, our excellent former Home Secretary, said. If those lawyers will now meet the government's lawyers, who clearly take a different view, the aim will be to come up with an amendment which we will put forward. Now, we hope the government will accept that amendment, that the bill will be improved along the lines the lawyers have recommended. But if the government doesn't accept the bill, if the government says, no, there's going to be no improvement, clearly we'll have to think again, won't we, about that process?
So, John, look, thank you. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to come to College Green and talk to us this evening.
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GB News.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. and this is Patrick Christys Tonight.
Have to destroy the boats and send them straight back.
Well, it's official. We've deported a grand total of 0.4% of Channel migrants since 2020. Should we just turn the boats back? It has to be cheaper, easier and more effective than the total rubbish that we're dealing with right now. Plus, I will tell you what Kemi Badenoch has kicked off about here.
Never said that. That is a lie. Well, that is a lie. And I think you should withdraw that statement. That is a lie.
Oh, meanwhile, is Gary Lineker finally about to get the boot? The incoming BBC top dog thinks that he should be brought to heel over political tweets. And a suspected suicide on the Bibby barge has led for some people saying that it's too inhumane to house migrants. Where are you on that? Do you think it is? I've also got tomorrow's newspaper headlines tonight in the liveliest paper review you will get anywhere on the telly, and here to do it all with me are Christine Hamilton, Adam Brooks and Matthew Larser. There we go. Good stuff. Just about one wave there. You love to see it. Oh, and yes, you won't believe what happens next. Oh, there we go. All right, you're going to have to stay tuned to find out. I can guarantee you it's not what you will be expecting. No one can expect what is coming there. I don't think you'll be able to guess anyway, put it that way. So this is Patrick Christys Tonight. Let's get cracking. Email me now. Should we turn the boats back? gbviews@gbnews.com. I will see you after Polly's headlines.
Patrick, thank you. Let's start this bulletin with a bit of breaking news we're getting from South Wales Police. They've declared a major incident after what's been described as a large explosion at an industrial estate. Police and firefighters, we understand, are on the scene where the blaze that has resulted from that explosion is now understood to have broken out and is taking hold. South Wales Police are also saying the roads around that industrial estate are currently closed. It's expected the area will be cordoned off for some time. So just to confirm, South Wales Police declaring a major incident after a large explosion on an industrial estate. Any further detail, of course, we'll bring it to you. Now, police are still appealing for help in their search for a mother of three who's been missing for 5 days. CCTV footage has been released showing 55-year-old Gaynor Lord leaving work on Friday afternoon. She was last seen walking through Norwich city centre. Police are saying she may have entered the River Wensum, prompting a huge search by specialist divers, fire crews and the Coast Guard, as some items of her clothing had been found in the river. And tonight, Norfolk police officers have also said they're in contact with the Lancashire Police Force, which worked on the Nicola Bulley investigation, to learn what they can from that inquiry.
We are continuing the work that we have been doing since Friday night here at Wensum Park, conducting searches both on land and in the water. Today we've been joined by a specialist dive team who are in the water now, and they're supporting the search in terms of getting into those deeper parts of the River Wensum, which then obviously supports all of the search work that we've already done here at the river.
Politics now, and the Conservatives were mocked mercilessly for their infighting at today's Christmas-themed Prime Minister's Question Time, the final session in the Commons for 2023. Last night, 38 rebel Tory MPs chose to abstain from a vote on the Safety of Rwanda bill, but the vote still passed with a majority of 44. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, accusing the government of being in meltdown, but Rishi Sunak saying the numbers on migration and the economy spoke for themselves.
Votes down by a third, and crucially, as we heard from Honourable Friend, tax cuts coming to help working families in the new year.
Mr. Speaker, he can spin it all he likes, but the whole country can see that yet again the Tory party is in meltdown and everyone else is paying the price. Now, he's kicked the can down the road, but in the last week, his MPs have said of him he's not capable enough, he's inexperienced, he's arrogant, a really bad politician.
Sir Keir Starmer. Now, the former boss of oil giant BP has lost more than £32 million in pay and bonuses after committing serious misconduct. Bernard Looney resigned from the oil giant in September after he misled the firm about past work relationships. In a statement today, the company's board said they'd asked Mr. Looney about his connections with colleagues, but have now concluded his answers were inaccurate and incomplete. It means he'll get no further salary, pension, allowance or benefits or bonuses and lose out on nearly £25 million in share awards. And lastly, a group of British men have become the first in the world to enter early trials of a new male hormone-free contraceptive pill. 60 years after the female pill was introduced, a group of 16 volunteers will test out the new birth control treatment. The pill contains a drug that prevents sperm production by blocking access to vitamin A. Scientists hope that if the tests are successful, the daily tablet could balance out the responsibility for contraception between the sexes. That is, of course, if they remember to take it. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. This is Britain's news channel.
At what point do we just turn the boats back? Surely it's time to have a serious conversation about that. This has been a devastating couple of days for anyone who cares about border security and national sovereignty. And when you think about the time, money, energy, incompetence, ineffectiveness and idiocy that has gone into trying everything else to stop the boats, surely it would now just be easier and more effective to turn the boats back. I woke up this morning to a WhatsApp message from a prominent MP on the Tory right who was sick with fury how he and others had bottled it over the Rwanda vote last night. He doesn't expect Rishi Sunak to make good on any promises over amendments to the bill, and he expects the rebels to soften still further. Flipping Mark Francois, the chairman of the ERG. Last night he was acting, wasn't he, like Don Francois Leone, the boss of the five families. Well, he got completely shafted, and now so has the country. Gone is Mark Francois Leone. Welcome, Mark Fraser. Giving it large before mugging everyone and himself off. And then today, we had more shocking revelations. The Bibby Stockholm barge, where somebody sadly reportedly took their own life yesterday, is costing us about 22 million quid. It houses just a handful of people. It's a floating white elephant. After that, we also learned that since 2020, just 0.4% of Channel migrants have been returned to their own country. Even Care for Calais would have to admit that more than 0.4% of people coming across the Channel are not genuine asylum seekers. Bringing up the hat-trick of utter tosh, a couple of hours ago, the Tory centrists have reportedly said that they want to table some amendments of their own to soften the Rwanda bill even more. I mean, good grief. Now, I know Tobias Elwood, Muller Elwood to his brothers, went to Afghanistan and, you know, helped out with the old Taliban PR, but I didn't realise he wanted to offer them an open invitation as well. That's a joke, by the way, Tobias. It's a little bit of a joke. You should know what those look like. Even if the Rwanda deal sails through now, when are we going to see flights taking off? We caught up with Geoffrey Cox, MP, earlier. I mean, this is quite pathetic.
Yeah, what are the odds on flights taking off with migrants in the spring, in May, as the PM has promised?
I would put it at slightly higher than evens.
Oh, great. We can all live off that, can't we? Almost as pathetic as the utter contempt that our snot-nosed public schoolboy-esque civil servants have for you, me and ordinary people. Lee Anderson asked some jumped-up, overpaid Home Office civil servants how many people had been deported a couple of weeks ago. They couldn't answer. They didn't care. Well, the ironically named Immigration Delivery Minister, Tom Pursglove, was before that Select Committee today, not answering questions again from Lee Anderson.
Go to the ministers first. Mr Rycroft and Mr Ridley, who, to my knowledge, didn't answer one single question throughout the whole session. Do you think it would be a good idea to put these pair into special measures?
Mr Anderson, may I address that? And I know you're not going to hold back, you don't, and nor should you, because you're entitled to ask your questions in your own way, and it is a unique and very effective style, if I may say so.
Yeah, look, instead of having to put up with his omni-shambles, at what point does someone just decide to turn the boats back and be done with it? Do it for a couple of weeks and the problem goes away. What are the French going to do? Go to war with us? Obviously not. They did it in Australia, and they're glad they did it, and they would do it again. We went and asked some of them.
Our policy involves turning around boats where this can safely and practically be done.
Yeah, look, I think they've probably got to do something similar in Europe.
Straight away, don't even let them stay and get rid of the boat. You have to destroy the boats and send them straight back.
It's important to have controls on everything that impacts lots of people.
Look at how ridiculous, expensive and useless the situation is now. Would turning the boats back really be any worse? But to respond now, I'm joined again by author and broadcaster Christine Hamilton. I've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks and former Labour Party advisor Matthew Laza. Christine, turn the boats back or not?
Absolutely. Why haven't we been doing this for ages? I mean, Australia has shown the way how to do it. Belgium has apparently stopped 90% of their boats. All we seem to have done is given France, I think it's 500 million or something, some ludicrous amount of money, in exchange for which they put a few more beach buggies on patrol and a few more drones, apparently. Of course we should. As they come up the beaches, we should take each one in a coach down to the nearest port or jetty or whatever, put them on a large-ish, medium-sized passenger boat, send them back to France with enough fuel to get to the French coast safely, not enough to get back. Push them back into the French's problem. They expect us to take them when they push them off from the beaches there. Of course we should.
Well, they don't push them off.
And this Rwanda plan is not going to work. It's never going to get through. It's going to find obstacle after obstacle, the House of Lords, etc. So that is moonshine. We've got to do something else.
Before I go to you, Adam, on this, look, you know, if the Tories did decide, which they're not going to do, right, but if they did decide to just turn the boats back and it worked, I don't think Labour would reverse that policy.
Look, turning back the boats is a nice alliterative soundbite, but it isn't a solution to the problem.
Why not?
Because, well, not least because turning back the boats involves the Royal Navy or the Border Force doing it.
I think you'd find a load of fishermen who'd be happy to do it.
Well,
what's wrong with involving the Royal Navy?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. But I was on a phone-in earlier this week where one serving and one recently retired Royal Naval officer said it's literally, reminded us that it's literally against the first law of the sea, which is that you don't, effectively turn back the boats once they're in the water, in the most busiest shipping channel in the world, means that you're basically going to be pushing people. Right. And if anybody falls in, they're worried about that.
You just turn those little rubber dinghies back and push them out.
Well, some people are, Christine.
I made it quite clear.
Right.
You take them onto a safe boat and you send them back. We don't mean.
But we're not allowed to just launch dinghies that were under our auspices.
Let's just have it right. Our Coast Guard is a taxi service for illegal immigrants.
Absolutely.
Right? And that is the hard truth of it.
The Coast Guard
would
a duty to look up to save souls, Adam.
At the end of the day, why is our Coast Guard going into French waters to pick up migrants? That is absurd. What are the French doing? They go missing when suddenly these boats are in trouble. How very convenient. And we give them hundreds of millions of pounds to do that. At the end of the day, the average Brit cannot get a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment. Some are struggling to feed their families. Yet if you come over to this country on a dinghy, you get housed, you get fed, you get access to immediate health care. Something is seriously wrong and something needs to be done about it.
We need to smash the gangs, Adam, absolutely. We need to stop them getting on the boats in the first place.
They need to know if they come here, they do not get a thing. It will then stop.
So you would turn the boats back?
I'd turn the boats round and I would leaflet the whole of Calais and all these camps with a very clear message. You won't get housing, you won't get fed, you won't get healthcare, you're getting nothing.
You're being
Stay
turned
away.
back.
All right, OK,
well, one thing that they do get, and obviously it's tragic that somebody's taken their life on the Bibby Stockholm, but that is the biggest killer of young men in this country, is suicide, so it's not unusual. What those migrants on the Bibby Stockholm get is counselling. Now, there are a very large number of our own veterans who are sleeping on the streets. They don't even get a house, never mind counselling to cope with everything that they've been through. It is just unfair.
It is, and we are about to actually have a discussion about the Bibby Stockholm in light of, and it is a tragedy, right? Somebody reportedly taking their own lives on that boat. Does that in any way, shape or form change your views about if it's a humane or inhumane place to house people? We will have that discussion very, very shortly. Look, Matthew, this idea of us trying everything else at great expense and people laughing at us on the other side of the channel now, and the Tory party tying itself in knots. The Labour Party, unless they do smash the gangs, then they're going to be exactly the same situation. Turning the boats back would just sort it out, wouldn't it?
You said that 0.4% have been sent back. Do you know what percentage of the people who've arrived on small boats in the last year have been processed? 1%.
They're still in the country.
Well, that's
exactly,
a scandal.
exactly, Adam.
That's a
It is a
scandal.
total scandal.
Labour
We'll all
would give
agree
them
that.
a pass.
No,
Labour
wouldn't give them a pass. It would process the applications, and those who shouldn't be here would be sent back.
17,000 are missing.
Yes,
What's happened to them?
absolutely.
So they're
Exactly,
not
under the
genuine
Tory
asylum
government.
seekers, are they?
13 years of a Tory government.
If there was genuine
well,
asylum
some of them
seekers,
could be genuine asylum
they
seekers.
wouldn't go missing, right?
But Adam, I'm not saying, and the Labour Party is not saying, that everybody is a genuine asylum seeker. What we are saying is, let's process the claims and send people who aren't back.
Let me just
say, the government aren't doing that. The government have processed 1%.
If they turn them round, the government...
You'd vote for us.
They would jump 10 points in the polls overnight.
They would, but what happens if you turn the boats back, right, and, you know, people die in the channel? Which is, let's be honest, the thing that is stopping a lot of people.
They're dying anyway, coming in this direction.
Would you tow them, presumably now, are we talking about towing them all the way back to the beaches in Calais? Is that where you're at with it?
First of all, I want to stop them coming from France.
Yeah. So we need to smash the gangs.
We need to do more with that, smash the gangs and make sure the French are actually doing their job. But I would just turn them round. I'm not being inhumane. At the end of the day, this is a national emergency. We have had terrorists, paedophiles, criminals, rapists come over on these boats. We have to stop it.
OK.
Do you know the person in charge, the unit of the French police or whatever, who's in charge of stopping these boats taking off, has been on sort of home-paid leave for the last 18 months. They are not taking it seriously.
It was reported that he's been...
all part. They've never forgiven her for Brexit, and it's all part of getting their own back.
OK, all right, look, lively start. Thank you very, very much. I'm excited to see what's in the inbox. I do have a point of clarification, though, to make. That earlier on, it was a clip of Lee Anderson, who was talking to Michael Tomlinson and not Tom Pursglove. Hey, look, we have a load of clips to process. It's a pretty easy mistake to make. Coming up, as an ISIS bride and her 5 children are repatriated to the UK, should we open our doors to the other 25 families believed to be living in a Syrian refugee camp? I will cover that with my press pack as we delve through the first of tomorrow's front pages. So if you want to see what's on the front of the books, you're going to have to stay tuned. But first, it is reported that a migrant sadly took his own life on the Bibby Stockholm. Now, is that barge now inhumane? OK, a former aide to Margaret Thatcher, now Gardner, locks horns with immigration lawyer Harjap Singh Bangal in another cracking head-to-head. Also, different tone now. How would you like to win £10,000 in cash, brand new tech and shopping vouchers? Well, you could be the winner of our very first Great British giveaway. Here's all the details of how you could make those prizes yours.
It's the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win 3 amazing prizes that will get your new year off to a great start. First, there's a terrific £10,000 in cash to be won. Imagine what you can do with that. We'll also give you a tech update with the very latest iPhone 15 Pro Max, plus £500 worth of shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store. The retail therapy could be on us. For your chance to win the iPhone, the vouchers and £10,000 cash, text GBWIN to 84902. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB01, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on Friday the 5th of January. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Good luck.
All right, well, there we go. Now, is the Bibby Stockholm barge ethical? It has people divided, and we will tackle that debate head-on in our head-to-head. That's next.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion, Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's
my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, loads of other stuff on. I'm going to be bringing you the liveliest paper review anywhere on British telly. We're also going to be showing you a clip of Kemi Badenoch really wading in on the trans issues that are gripping the country at the moment, and a heck of a lot more as well, including a car crash that ends so differently than anyone would expect. But first, it is time for another head-to-head. So look, tragic news from the Bibby Stockholm barge yesterday. A migrant believed to be in his 20s who was housed on the vessel was reported to have taken their own life. Now, the migrant charity Care for Calais obviously wasted no time in pointing the finger. They said the UK government must take responsibility for this human tragedy. Now, as you may know, I'm a big advocate for mental health support. I've raised 130 grand this year for the charity Mind. Well, you raised the money, really. I just spoke about it, so thank you, everybody who did that. Now, unlike Care for Calais, I don't yet think the barge can be unequivocally blamed for this very tragic incident. But to help me, I suppose, make my mind up, I'm asking, is the Bibby Stockholm inhumane? Going head-to-head on this is immigration lawyer Harjap Singh Bangal, former advisor to Margaret Thatcher as well. Now, Gardner chaps, look, thank you very, very much. Obviously, sensitive subject matter, but this is the discussion that people are having at the moment as a result of this tragedy that's taken place on the barge. Niall, does this prove that the Bibby Stockholm is not fit to house people on, do you think?
Patrick, thank you for having me on the show today. And I think the responsibility for this tragedy really rests at the door of the horrible smuggling gangs who are basically bringing large numbers of illegal migrants across the channel. They're the ones responsible. It's not the responsibility of the British people or the British government here. And I do think housing illegal migrants on a barge is a perfectly reasonable solution, considering it costs about £6 million a day to house illegal migrants in the UK. That's over £2 billion pounds a year. So we are talking about very large sums of money here. And the British government has a responsibility to the British taxpayer to reduce the cost, but also, I think, to send a clear deterrent message as well to illegal migrants who wish to cross the channel. They should not be housed at great expense in hotels. And I think as well that the British Prime Minister should be doing all he can to stand up to Emmanuel Macron over this. After all, the French government is doing nothing to stop these boats crossing the channel.
Oh, all right. So in your view, the barge in itself is not inhumane. Harjab, your view?
No.
Well, my view is this is a whole situation created by the government. The government has created this whole situation. It has created this whole backlog of cases, 150,000 cases that are still waiting, more than a year for a decision. There are more than there are people who haven't been deported. 60,000 people were deported under a Labour government, and now only 3,000 people are deported under a Tory government. So Tories are supposed to be hard on immigration, but it doesn't look like it.
Is the barge itself inhumane? That's the thing, because, you know, look, this is again, I really want to emphasise the tragedy of an individual here believed to have taken their own life. I'm not diminishing that, but, you know, is it the barge to blame here, really? Can we say that? I mean, you know, what do you think, Harjab?
Well, does it deter people? I mean, a barge, how many people can it hold? 300 people? 500 people? How many people? Is it going to deter? What about the 49,500 people? Is it going to deter them people? It is not going to deter them people. And where's the cost going for this barge? The cost is we don't know where it's going for the barge. It's not going to deter 49,500 people from crossing the channel. And it doesn't help. And the fact is, now someone's lost their life on this barge. We are responsible for that. Ultimately, the person allegedly who lost his life is a doctor. He was supposed to be saving lives, and he's taken his own life.
Just because we're running out of time, but I get what you're saying, right? So now come back to that, right? So you know, are we responsible for this now? Because the calls are going to be, in fact, the calls have started. You know, get everyone off this barge. It's a floating hellhole. How can we do this to people? So go on.
Yeah, I don't think the British government is responsible at all for this. It's not a prison as well. I think the occupants of this barge are able to leave it freely during the day and visit the local towns and so on. So they're hardly prisoners. And this is perfectly reasonable accommodation, I think, for illegal migrants. It's not inhumane in any way at all. Of course, what we should be doing, of course, is stopping these boats from crossing the channel in the first place. They should not be coming ashore in the United Kingdom. And of course, illegal migrants should be deported as well. So we do have to look at the big picture here. But it's not inhumane to put illegal migrants on a barge. That is perfectly humane to do so. And the British government, British people, are not responsible for this tragic incident.
OK, both of you, thank you very much. Really, really interesting stuff. That was a good head-to-head. That was Harjab Singh Bangal and Niall Gardner. Look, I suppose, what side are you on? GBViews at gbnews.com. I'll go to that inbox very, very shortly. But coming up in my press pack, and I want to get to this because I always like to be the first one with your front pages, OK? The most entertaining paper review that you will get anywhere on the telly. Gary Lineker's in hot water again, as the new BBC chair suggests that his ranting tweets have broken impartiality guidelines. So, are Gaz's days at the Beeb numbered? I will be giving you the very first front pages and some of the stories from inside the book as well, including, remarkably, we're not talking about Shamima Begum here, the return of a British ISIS bride who's been repatriated from a refugee camp in Syria with her 5 kids. Should we be welcoming these people back? Stay tuned.
Your weekend starts here with Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, 8 till 9 on GB News. Big stories, big guests and big laughs as we get you ready for a cracking weekend. That's Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan, Fridays 8 till 9 on GB News. Bring your own drinks, the admission's free.
Wake up to the headlines with headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens. With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to give you accurate reporting every day. When the news breaks, we'll be there with bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you.
GB News,
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In Rwanda.
It might be my favourite bit of the show, this. Let's bring you tomorrow's news tonight in the liveliest paper review anywhere on telly. The very first front pages have just been delivered for my press pack. So we've got The Independent. Dare we hope the future of fossil fuels is going up in smoke? COP28 climate deal, it reads. Massive picture story of, yeah, shock horror, a load of smoke. 200 nations agree to move away from fossil fuels with deep and rapid reductions in emissions. It's quite an astonishing shift, this, in a day, because this time yesterday, all the noise was that the whole thing was a waste of time, and that's what you get if you hold it in an oil state. But big oil-producing states resist UK, US and EU call to phase out fossil fuels altogether. So, not an entirely wasted trip. Yeah, it's nice to get to enjoy that back in their private jets later, don't they? But the Mirror now. Venables parole verdict. Justice for my James. This is an exclusive with James Bulger's mum. She expresses her relief after the killer's bid for freedom was rejected. That's, of course, Denise Fergus, who is just absolutely haunted by this every single time this parole hearing comes around. Every single time it's back in the news, bless her. We'll go over now to The Sun. Leo in secret date with Lottie Moss. Superstar actor Leonardo DiCaprio and model Lottie Moss party till the early hours on a secret date, which, of course, has somehow managed to make its way onto the front page of The Sun. So, not that secret as far as secret dates go, I think. Let's whiz ourselves over to The Eye now. Tax cuts will keep interest rates high, PM warned. Rishi Sunak has given his strongest hint yet that more tax cuts are likely next year. That's something to be cheerful. But economists warn that the tax reduction will keep interest rates high. So a move on the income or inheritance tax might well push back the date of a rate cut beyond September. So there we go. Interesting as well on the front of The Eye, new BBC chairman on collision course with Lineker. We'll come on to that. But this is the one we're going to be focusing on now. Defiance of top Tory reported to police over man in wig row, as she writes in Mail that she refuses to deny reality. The headline there, the trans bullies won't silence me. So there we go. There is, of course, a picture story there about the missing mum. We're going to go in with the panel now on the Mail. The trans bullies won't silence me. Top Tory reported to police in a trans row to continue speaking up for women's rights. They say that's, of course, Rachel McLean. Christine, do you think that's fair enough?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if that isn't a man in a wig, then, I mean, I'm Father Christmas. There can't be any sane person in this country who can't see that that is a man in a wig. And I'm sorry, she just said the truth. She was speaking the truth, as plain as the pikestaff. What is wrong with it? And I'm delighted that she's not, as it were, just taking the threats lying down. She's not backing down. We need to fight for this. Women need to fight for this or we'll be eradicated.
Adam?
Women need men to fight this back as well, and it's something I've done on Twitter and on here. The absurdity of that person being a woman, you know, it is that man being is a joke, you know, and anyone that thinks that that is a woman or says that that is a woman is, you know, in cloud cuckoo land.
OK, Matthew, your views on it, because it has caused a heck of a lot of controversy.
I think the original tweet that Rachel McLean said, I think, was inappropriately phrased. I think I think that quite a lot of people believe that the language was inappropriate. It's up to the electors of Bromsgrove because the person in question is the Green candidate in that constituency. I would let voters decide. I don't think Rachel McLean would pick on other characteristics of an opponent, so I think it was inappropriate, the original tweet. But it's for the voters to decide.
So it's a bit of context here, obviously, that it's an aspiring Green Party MP who...
It's her Green opponent, yeah.
Yeah. Who is... And I'm just making sure I get this... I mean, forgive me, because this is just inherently... It doesn't read correctly to me, this, right? But it's a man who wears a wig and calls himself a proud lesbian. Right, so there's seen quite a lot of contradictions.
It's a man that's attracted to a woman.
So is this somebody who identifies as a trans woman but is attracted to women? So that would then make them, if you say that a trans woman is a woman, then that would make them a lesbian. No. And that's where they are.
I mean, I think legally this person is still a man because they haven't transitioned and they haven't, so therefore legally they're still a man.
Call that out. This is the thing there, right? Like you should surely be able to.
You should be able to, and we will keep. I don't care if I'm threatened with police or whatever. I will always say that is a man.
You shouldn't be arrested, or in my view, anyway, for saying that is a. I mean, obviously, you don't want any kind of hate crime, or you don't want any, picture, but, you know, being asked to suspend belief. But look, there is, and this is relevant to this discussion that we're having, right? Because Business Secretary Camilla Tominey was taking questions at the Women and Equalities Committee in Parliament this evening. And she absolutely wiped the floor with Labour MP after she made quite an outrageous accusation. I'll throw it over to Cammy.
Also made these statements using inflammatory language that likens children and young people coming out as trans to the spread of a disease.
I've never said that. That is a lie. Well, that is a lie, and I think you should withdraw that statement. That is a lie. When was that statement made? And where?
I don't know, did you?
Of course I didn't. Where did you get that from?
I'm not here to answer your question.
Yeah, because you don't know. Because you don't know. It is not true. And you should not be saying that in this committee when you don't know where that statement came from.
I'm not calling you a lie.
Yeah, well, there you go. Kevin Badenoch obviously not backing down. Yeah, I do want to make it very clear. There's you know, obviously some people don't feel comfortable in their own original genders or whatever, and I get that, right? And, you know, there is a big difference between being overtly mean to someone and bullying them and being nasty to them and marginalising them, but also at the same time, my view is that you shouldn't have to suspend biological fact in order to compensate necessarily for somebody's feelings. Maybe you think I'm wrong, get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.com. No doubt plenty of people will think I'm wrong. But Christine, was Camilla Badenoch right to push back on it? Because this is the other thing, isn't it? The demonisation of people.
If somebody is saying she said something and she didn't, I think that this goes back to when Camilla Badenoch said that a lot of children who are gay are being told that, in fact, they're trans.
Yes.
That's where it all states from. And I couldn't quite hear what the Labour MP said. And for her to say, when she's sitting there to answer questions, say, I'm not here to answer your questions, I'm sorry.
It's a bit of an embarrassment, that, is it, Matthew? In the idea that, you know, if you're going to lob accusations out there, right, then you should be able to back it up.
Look, absolutely. You know, I defend a lot what the Labour Party does, but Kate Osborne, the MP, the Labour MP, they didn't seem to have her facts straight. You need to get your facts straight, because otherwise you undermine your argument. I used to write a lot of questions for people like you, Patrick, and you know, know, and we had to source every fact, every accusation we wanted to be put to a politician, whoever the politician was. So, you know, you get your facts straight first.
Yeah,
I think it's done Kemi. That exchange will have done Kemi Badenoch no harm at all.
It will have done. I just want to squeeze this one in as well, because this is a story that's going to be on the inside of a couple of the newspapers tomorrow. So, it's a British woman that became an ISIS bride in Syria, has now been returned to the UK alongside her 5 children. This is not Shamima Begum that we're talking about here, it's somebody else. Charities estimate that 25 British families are still living in the Roj refugee camp in Syria, amid growing concern that these camps are breeding the next generation of terrorists. The former director of counter-terrorism at MI6, Richard Barrett, is now calling for their repatriation because he views the camp squalid conditions as propaganda for ISIS. I'm just going to throw it over now to you first, Adam. Do you think we should be repatriating these people? I mean, there are kids involved.
I believe I speak for probably 90% of the public by saying this, saying they can stay where they are.
Even with the kids?
I don't care. At the end of the day, they chose their bed, lie in it.
Not the kids, not the kids.
Hold on. These women are threats to our national security. I don't want them here. I've got my own kids' safety to worry about. Let them rot. That's what I'll say. Let them rot.
Strong stuff. Matthew?
I think all of our number one concern is public safety and the safety of the 60-odd million people in this country. The intelligence services say that actually it's more likely to breed terrorism by having them there than let's bring them back. For me, it's not about the human rights of the ISIS brides, it's about the human rights of all of us.
I suppose the argument would then be, a final word quickly to you, Christine, on this, would be if it is breeding terrorists, it's breeding terrorists somewhere else.
Well, if it's breeding terrorists, the last thing we want is to have them over here. But I do... Very young children, they didn't choose to go there, so I think there is more of an argument for them. But no, anybody of an adult age, they can jolly well stay there.
All they have to do is get on a dinghy and we house them.
Well, I suppose...
That's why we need to smash the gangs, Adam.
That's why we need to smash... You're really plugging this smash the gang stuff tonight, Matthew.
That's going to be a Labour line, isn't it?
There we go. Right, look, coming up, OK. Welsh leader, soon-to-be former leader, Mark Drakeford, finally bowed out today after 5 years of, well, failure, really, at the helm in Cardiff. Could you guess who has nominated him for a Greatest Britain or Union Jackass Award? But next, St Gary Lineker's halo appears to finally be cracking, as the new BBC chairman sensationally admitted today that the Match of the Day host behaviour on Twitter does look like it breaches corporation rules. Don't miss Gary's fall from grace. And, of course, I've got a couple more front pages for you that we've not put out there yet in our press pack. I'll just see you in 2, all right?
Who is it? We're here for the show. Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie.
Second best.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays on GBNews.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time to return to the liveliest paper review anywhere on telly. More of the front pages just delivered, hot off the press. We go in with the Telegraph. So, Britain to build next-generation fighter jets. UK-based project with Japan and Italy aims to create a new supersonic aircraft. By 2035, I suppose that's a good British business and supposedly defence story as well. Valence's pandemic diary to be kept a secret. Thank God for that. Sir Patrick Valence's full pandemic diary is to be kept a secret at the COVID inquiry. It's emerged. Look, obviously, some people will want it all out there. As far as I'm concerned, that will just be bedtime reading. Let's move on to The Guardian. Because they've been going. Landmark COP28 deal agreed to transition away from fossil fuels. Very similar front page to The Independent. Shock. Universities face fines under new free speech guidelines as well there. Let's go to The Times now. Interesting picture story on the front of The Times. The Hollywood star Sienna Miller has posed for Vogue and spoken about the pressures of pregnancy. And if you are listening on radio, then she's visibly pregnant on the front of The Times. So there we go. Facebook is now a danger to children, parents told. Crime chief raises alarm over encrypted messages. There we go. We'll go to the Metro. Has Lineker met his match? Well, we'll come on to that, OK? So, in fact, we're just going to do it. We're going to do it right now, actually. So, it appears that Gary Lineker may well have breached BBC guidelines. This is what they're saying in the Metro. But not for the reasons you might have expected, OK? So, here's the government's candidate to become the new BBC chairman, Samir Shah, speaking to MPs at the pre-appointment hearing earlier today.
As far as I'm aware, the signing of the letter did not breach those guidelines. I do think, however, the more recent tweet that Mr. Lineker, in which he identified some two politicians, does, on the face of it, seem to breach those particular guidelines of public. I'm not sure how egregious it is, but it does. And I would imagine that the BBC is now looking into that and considering its response.
Right, well, look, first, Gary took a swipe at Tory MP Jonathan Gullis, suggesting he didn't know how to read, before accusing Defence Secretary Grant Shapps of using multiple identities, mocking him as 4 Shapps. So, panel, as new BBC chairman says, Gary Lineker's tweets appear to breach social media guidelines. Are his days numbered at the Beeb, Christy?
Absolutely, not before time. It's ridiculous. I've always taken the view that Lineker is the BBC's useful idiot, because he's out there saying the things that they would love to say and what half the BBC already thinks. He says it for them. But absolutely, it's a gross insult to all the licence payers, and especially people like pensioners. It costs them about, is it 5% of their pension goes on the licence fee?
There's a difference between... There is a difference between what people think should happen with Gary Lineker and what people think will happen with Gary Lineker.
He's out.
Adam?
I'm not one for cancel culture, and I've always said I don't want him sacked, but it's the last straw now. He's mocking the licence fee payers.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, we pay his wages, and he wouldn't have 8 or 9 million Twitter followers if he wasn't on Match of the Day and he wasn't on the BBC. So he's gained from being on the BBC, and he's now using it against taxpayers' licence fee payers.
Don't forget his 1.4 million a year too.
OK, well, that's... Look, Matthew, do you buy that? I mean, do you think that, you know, that it was an impartiality breach? I mean, he's done other stuff, hasn't he? I would argue that is more egregious than this, so, and he's still there.
I think from Samir, who's going to be a very good chairman of the BBC and a very clever person to plot through the political minefields.
Yeah.
So what he was very carefully there saying was, well, he didn't break the original guidelines because they're about social media use. Because of the social media use, and the original thing was a letter. But once he started to get into the spat, he did. So it doesn't matter how they get him; they're going to get him. He'll be gone. He'll be gone.
Whoa!
Yeah.
You think Gary Lineker will be booted by the BBC?
I think yes, absolutely. I mean, you had the chairman saying there that he thought there was a prima facie case that he broke impartiality guidelines. The guy, you cannot carry on after that.
Wow. OK, wasn't expecting that.
Sure,
a BBC spokesperson has said we aren't going to comment on individuals or indeed individual tweets. While the guidance does allow people to talk about issues that matter to them, it also is clear that individuals should be civil and not call into question anyone's character. We discuss issues that arise with presenters as necessary. There we go.
That's quite an interesting statement, because it actually does make it, by saying about character, that's actually an attack. That's a code. That's as strong as a BBC statement gets as an attack on Gary.
Now, look, I've been teasing the living heck out of this clip, all right, so I am finally going to show it to you. A chap playing pool in his local Nottinghamshire boozer has become a bit of an internet sensation. after he managed to hold his nerve under some pretty unique circumstances. Yep, OK. This Land Rover, being pursued by police, is about to smash straight into a wall, and that wall is attached to this pub. But it didn't stop him from potting the black. That's fantastic stuff. Car comes in, black goes in. I mean, Apps doesn't even flinch, the guy. And we could see it really rammed straight through the pub, didn't it? I mean, despite that 3-ton surprise, it just ploughed straight into the back of him, potted the black. A true British hero, can I just say. Well done, my good man. Fantastic
Do we know
stuff.
his name?
Not yet. If only the spineless Tory probably because his missus didn't know he was drinking in the pub. Can you imagine? You see the video. It looks a lot like you, that, Jeff. Anyway, if only the spineless Tory rebels who bottled that Rwanda vote yesterday had a shred of this guy's composure. We've just about got a little bit of time, I think, haven't we now, for Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. Greatest Britain, Christine.
Well, you have cued me in wonderfully because it's the pool player, and I was hoping you'd be able to give me his name. I thought that was absolutely wonderful. It showed the great British stiff upper lip. It's the spirit that won the war. Thank goodness it's still alive and kicking in the pool pub.
I mean, of course, we are skirting over the fact that there was a wild police chase taking place before it.
Yeah, but who's taken the headlines? The hero of the hour, the pool player. The game was more important.
Doesn't even flinch. Legend. All right, it's going to take some beating, Adam.
Mine's Suella Braverman for being probably one of the only Conservative MPs that I actually believe in at the moment that wants to tackle immigration.
OK, all right. Did cop it a bit for not voting. I mean, no Tory MP voted against the bill, but, yeah, anyway, go on, Matthew.
Slightly different change of tone. Mine's the Church of England for at last allowing church blessings from this weekend for same-sex couples who've entered marriage. You still can't get married in a church, but at least the church will be showing some love to those same-sex couples who are in love.
You can in Scotland.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. This is the Church of England, yeah.
All right, cool. So the winner is Pubman. Yes, well done, Pubman, Christine, pool player who's managed to pot the black despite coming under heavy artillery fire from a Land Rover. Right, we've got now Union Jackass.
Yes, I don't think I'm going to be so lucky this time. But finally, these people, we do them down the whole time, and I think they deserve it's a great accolade to be Union Jackass. It really is. It's a massive prize. It means the world to people. So I think this definitely has to go to the Sussexes because they've now won the award.
Well, I think you might win.
Biggest losers in Hollywood. And let's really make their day by making them also, one is honorary, of course, but one is very much royally British, the Jackasses.
OK, go on.
Mine is Mark Drakeford, the authoritarian lunatic of a leader of Wales.
I'm not sure I'd call him a lunatic, even if you disagree with him.
Mark Dripford, we used to call him.
So just say why today, again, Mark Drakeford isn't here to defend himself.
Dripford.
Right.
I can do my best.
Right, why is he your jackass?
Because during COVID, you know, he taped off kids' areas in supermarkets. He wants 20-mile-an-hour zones all over Wales. He is a COVID nutter.
Right.
He's destroyed the health service.
How would you respond to some of those allegations?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you can disagree with Mark. I mean, you're on fire today, Adam. I mean, look, Mark's a controversial figure. He got re-elected with a good vote in Wales during COVID, so it was up to the Welsh people to decide. Yeah. And I think he's been a great servant for Wales.
Do you?
While the NHS under his watch has gone down.
Can I do mine? Because I always sometimes we run out of time. And my Union Jackass, you might like this one, is Mark Francois or Mark Leone.
Yeah, Mark Francois Leone.
Absolutely. Who is a chocolate soldier if ever there were one. I mean, how pathetic is it all? Leading us up top of the hill, straight back down again. Flipping heck. I'm glad he wasn't in charge in the Second World War, or otherwise we'd be speaking German, as they say.
Well, quite. All right, the winner is Mark Drakeford. Yeah. I couldn't let you have it, mate. I couldn't let you have it. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, so Mark Drakeford has decided to call it quits today after a heck of a long time. It feels that way anyway. In charge of Wales. So there we go. Look, can I just say thank you to my panel. I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight. It's been a rip-roaring show with some very controversial topics. And if you do want to go back and have a little look and listen to anything as well, then do make sure that you go back on YouTube, watch it all there. Or, of course, you can set it to record on your telly and watch it anytime you like. Headliners are up next. I'll see you tomorrow at 9. Mwah.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Greg Dewhurst and welcome to your latest GB News forecast. Turning chilly for a time this evening, but then mild air spreads back in overnight as cloud and rain moves in from the Atlantic. This weather front pushes southeastwards as we head through tonight and into Thursday, and then a north-south split into the weekend. High pressure keeping it dry in the south. This evening turning quite chilly, some frost out there, but overnight we see cloud and rain moving in from the Atlantic. This slowly pushing its way southeastward, so temperatures rising as the night goes on, taking us into Thursday morning. Most places frost-free, generally between 2 and 8 Celsius. But it does mean a cloudy, damp start for many, particularly across England and Wales, where we do have outbreaks of rain slowly pushing southeastwards. Brighter Northern Ireland and Scotland with blustery showers in the far north. And then through the day, the cloud and the rain slowly pushes southeastwards, becoming confined to the far southeast for the afternoon. Most places becoming dry and bright, plenty of sunny spells. Still some blustery showers across Scotland. Temperatures near average for the time of year, 7 to 11 Celsius, maybe just slightly above for some western parts. On Friday itself, some mist and fog and frost to start the morning, and then plenty of dry weather across England and Wales. Variable amounts of cloud. Cloudy skies, though, for Northern Ireland, Scotland. The risk of some rain as we move through the day here, and a mild day for everyone. Into the weekend, it generally stays quite cloudy, and temperatures remain above average for the time of year. See you soon.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Wake up to the headlines with Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. We treat you to the day's biggest stories before anyone else, 7 days a week. You can catch up on everything you need to know before you've even had your kippers. Headliners every morning at 5 a.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christys Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christys Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So, send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Curse, on the Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. The Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, you're with GB News. Let's bring you more on that breaking news we brought to you about an hour ago. News coming to us from South Wales Police about what's being described as a large explosion on an industrial estate. Police have declared a major incident in Treforest. That's a village near Pontypridd, that's northwest of Cardiff. Police and firefighters are at the scene where a major fire has broken out. Flames and smoke can be seen in videos being shared on social media. We're also hearing local hospitals are on high alert after that blaze, and people in the surrounding areas are being asked not to go to A&E unless it's absolutely necessary.